Okay. And then does Ron need the clicker? Yeah. He's giving me signals. Okay. Okay. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to get started with the Naperville Park District Board of Commissioners regular board meeting. Today is Thursday, August 23rd, 2018. Time is 6:35 p.m. Bridget, call the roll, please.
President Riley?
Here.
Vice President Janner? Absent. Commissioner Carlson?
Here.
Commissioner Egan? Absent. Commissioner Ensign?
Here.
Commissioner King?
Here.
Commissioner Todd?
Here. Now that we have a physical forum.
I have been notified that Vice President Janner wishes to participate remotely. He's out of town business.
I'd like to move to allow remote meeting participation of Vice President Janner, who's out of town on business, as allowed per Section 7 of the Open Meetings Act.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? We do this on a voice vote. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, I will attempt to bring him in.
Hello, this is Rich.
Vice President Jenner, welcome.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear us okay?
Yep, crystal clear.
We can hear you very well, sir. Okay. We do have a quorum, and we have Vice President Jenner joining us. Next item on our agenda is the bond issuance notification hearing, BINA. It is now 6:37 p.m. and our first agenda item for the Board of Park Commissioners is a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposal to sell an amount not to exceed $15 million general obligation limited tax park bonds for the payment of land for parks, for the building, maintaining, improving, and protecting the same, and the existing land and facilities of said park district, and for the payment of the expenses incident thereto. So I'll entertain a motion to recess to public hearing and a roll call vote.
Move to recess to public hearing for discussion of bond issuance.
Second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Bridget, call the roll, please.
Vice President Janner?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensign?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
President Riley?
Yes. All persons desiring to be heard will have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect to the proposed issuance of the bonds. The reason for the proposed issuance of bonds are to provide funding for the development of Phase 1 of Southwest Community Park and various capital projects to be undertaken in 2019. Are there any additional comments from the Park Commissioners? Is there any written testimony concerning the proposed issuance of the bond? Is there any oral testimony or any public comments concerning the proposed issuance of the bonds? All persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony with respect to the proposed issuance of the bonds. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing and return to the open meeting. This is roll call vote.
I'll move to adjourn the public hearing and return to an open meeting.
Second. Motion is second. Discussion? Bridget, call the roll, please.
Vice President Janner?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd?
Yes.
Commissioner Ensign?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
President Riley?
Yes. Next item on our agenda is matters from the public. Bridget, do we have anyone from the public signed up to speak?
Does Mr. Ori want to present first?
And as former Commissioner Roy makes his way to the podium, we've all provided with materials relative to this.
Thank you, Mike, for allowing me to make this presentation. And what I'm presenting are my words, my thoughts, none of the staff, even though I've appropriated the logo up there. I'm a certified master naturalist, and that's the other logo. And what I'd like to talk to you about is an area on the north end of the community garden plots that wonderful things have been happening over the past several years. We've been at it since 2011, so we've got 8 years, 8 gardening seasons in there, and tremendous amount of volunteer labor has gone into that, both skilled and unskilled. Doesn't take much to dig a hole, put a plant in, and we've been fortunate to have a number of folks involved in that. These are the elements of the that I'm talking about. These have evolved from a 20 by 30 foot initial plot of native perennials that we put in 2011, and now we've got quite a few elements there, and I'll just run through these quickly. We have pollinator garden, which I believe the Park District received a grant in order to install that, a $1,000 grant. So that's located right inside the entrance to Sportsman's Park on the south side. And extending out from that is a small fruit garden, and that refers to the size of the fruit. There's all kinds of apple, pears, plum, peaches, fruit trees planted in there, and some vines, blackberries, I think some strawberries also. The idea garden has several components. The first being the native prairie. This was put in originally, like I say, in 2011, and it has over 50 species of native perennials, and it's in color almost all season long. Next, the sensory garden just to the north of the prairie was put in 2013, and it appeals to all the senses, the sense of sound. We've got a number of native species of grasses on the west side of that. The sedge meadow has a number of grasses that I just referred to, and the picture here is a paddlebrush grass. Next element, the rain garden. Here there were 25 master gardeners putting in 4 vegetable plots. A little later I'll talk about that. And in that year, 2011, we got flooded out twice. So next year we put a rain garden in. We wised up after having replanted twice. So the rain garden takes runoff from the vegetable plots that the master gardeners did. There is a savanna that's located to the west of both the sensory garden and the prairie garden. It is under a grove of trees, and that has plants that like partial shade. The picnic area features it's located in the center and has 2 picnic tables with movable benches that an Eagle Scout had put in, installed. Also in the picnic area is a labyrinth, and I put a little personal note in there that you know my heart's into it. That's a pun for some of you. The prototype tree nursery, we had a little space in behind a bunch of lattice panels, and so we put in 50 small twigs of oaks, and 40 of them are still thriving. This year we installed 70 plus species of mostly natives in the woodland garden. Put the sign up a couple weeks ago. And then at the same time, about when we were putting that in, we also installed a tree nursery. and we being a large number of volunteers came in and planted about 100 species of oak trees over in that area. So we've got over 150 oak saplings that we could use in the park at some future time. As I say, this is information only for the board. Later on, I'd like to have the opportunity, as Ray and I discussed, to sit down with the staff and put together the inclusion of the Park District staff's viewpoint on this and perhaps get the word out. We've done things that I think are best management practices and provides a sustainability. The garden plots and that the master gardeners tend, and the small fruit garden is providing fruit and food for the people, and all of the plants provide some nectar for the pollinators. And the last point that I have here is increased recognition. I think we need to get the word out that this is a really valuable resource for all of the residents of Naperville and those elsewhere. And a special thanks goes out to the many volunteers that over the years have put in, I don't know how many hundreds of hours in order to install. We've had at least 6 Eagle Scout projects that have, at their cost, not the Park District cost, been able to benefit us. We've got demonstration compost bin, we've got picnic tables that I mentioned. One put the lattice panels in. Another scout that took bricks from the barn and laid them as edging all around the gardens. And another scout also then did the interpretive signs, and that was quite an extensive job in the help of Brad's staff. We've received at least 7,000 in donations, cash, over the years, so that this project has probably cost very little to the taxpayers. A lot of staff time, central maintenance, especially Carl Bora and his crew have done a really great job thinking up some of these ideas, as well as installing them and supervising and assisting those volunteers that have been helping us. So I thank you for the opportunity to present this. I field any questions you might have.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
Move to accept consent agenda items A through F as presented.
We have motion is second. Any discussion? Richard, call the roll, please.
Vice President Janner,
Yes.
Commissioner Todd,
Yes.
Commissioner Ensign,
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson,
Yes.
Commissioner King,
Yes.
President Riley.
Yes.
Move to approve the consent agenda as accepted.
Second. Motion is second. This is a voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We have nothing under unfinished business, so we'll go on to new business. And the first item on our agenda is the Frontier Sports Complex Public Plaza presentation. Easy for me to say.
Yes, we have Rick Hitchcock, which Hitchcock Design Group here tonight to provide a presentation. Now, if you sit too far, you'll get a delay.
I'm not used to being tethered. Good evening, commissioners and citizens. Rick Hitchcock, Hitchcock Design Group, and let's just start by just making sure I know what I'm doing here. Commissioners, you've seen some of this presentation before. We introduced this to you, gosh, several months ago. It's a little refined at this point. The important thing is that, as you know, we have been working since July, I believe, or August of last year for the Park District. or the Park District's invitation. We met with Ray and Karen and many others out at the site at 95th Street Library, really looking basically at a weed patch. What we're reminded of at this point is that at one time, this is not our drawing, this was a drawing that was done years ago, maybe decades ago at this point. At one time, there was a proposal, is there a pointer on this thing?
Yeah, it's in the middle.
It's in the middle. Oh, there it is. Here's the library. At one time, there was a proposal to build a pretty significant indoor space for the community purposes for the Park District. Immediately to the south, north is to the right on this screen. But the point of all this is to say that this was a lot of building, a lot of parking lot, and there was a detention basin that was constructed that was sized on purpose in order to handle all of the runoff that might come from that. Well, as I said, we met about a year and a month ago out at the site with several people, and the first thing that we were doing is taking a look at really what was a weed patch next to this detention basin. And I think you're all familiar with the area, the Frontier Park sports complex is out here. There's some retail, some strip retail along Route 59. Here's 95th Street. And of course, Neuqua Valley High School and the freshman campus just to the east. Here's a little bit closer look at that area. Only 2 acres. If you look specifically at the turf area, then there's a little bit larger space, including a retention pond. I think we all know what it looks like. We'll skip over that pretty quickly. So we asked a fundamental question. We asked it kind of excitedly that day. We've asked it again in virtually every setting we've been in. Given all the dynamics that we know about Naperville, given the investment that the city has put into the library, given the investment that District 204 has put into the schools, and given the investment that the Park District has put into, of course, it's all the community, it's all Naperville citizens, that we've all put into this area, is it possible that this area by the library could be something that would be really much more than just an outdoor patio? Could this be something that would be a gateway to what we think might be the most important civic campus in South Naperville? There really is nothing else like it. Could it have some compelling attractions? Could it have an exceptional connection to everything around it? And could it have some kind of really distinctive appearance? We talked about what those things might be. What are the attractions? Well, to be sure, the library is a huge attraction. The schools are, of course, in session. Those are big attractions. The ball fields are huge attractions. The retail is a big attraction. There's offices in the vicinity. 95th Street's a bustling area, so there's a lot going on. Could we have something that would augment it, that would be a unifying community asset? Could accommodate small and large program uses, could accommodate some really significant special events from time to time, and maybe something that would complement what's going on next door and really engage that retail space in a much better way. Could it be something that would really have an arresting kind of an appearance, something that would be distinctive? People have said, well, is it another Riverwalk? Well, it's certainly not another Riverwalk. There's no river. But could it be something that would really enjoy some kind of special characteristics? We think so. And of course, everything that would be constructed, just like any other park or city improvements, would have to meet a whole checklist of best practices to be sustainable, multidimensional, healthy, attractive, so on and so on. And so we got to looking at this really big picture. So we kind of strayed, as you can tell. Here's our little space that we were asked to look at, a couple of acres. And we started looking at this whole area, and we asked the question, what happens if we really work a lot harder to connect all of these kind of disconnected uses, or they're presently only connected by car, we connect them by foot, and we have some kind of central space that's really intriguing, really versatile, something really valuable for the community, and we put it right next to the library. And maybe if we all get lucky someday, as commercial characteristics change, as retailing changes, maybe we get a chance to break through this barrier right now where it's the back end, not a very attractive back end, or retail center, break in and actually engage this retailing so we get it put as genuinely a mixed-use space. We think it's really exciting possibility. So after all of that conversation, we kind of got back to our knitting and said, all right, what happens if we can make all these connections? What would we want to put in this space? Here's the library, here's Cedar Glade Drive, the back end of the shopping center is over here, and so here's this 2-acre site. And what we thought was, what if we ended up with something that would be this great complement to the library, where you could have an outdoor patio space for reading, whether it's programmed or spontaneous. We could have some outdoor play spaces that might be age-targeted. We could have a performance venue that could easily handle several hundred people for kind of informal, maybe even some larger scale public events. All of this facing right onto a reconfigured retention basin, so that it looks a little more natural and not it looks like a trapezoid and upside down on the ground right at the moment, not too appealing. We'll make all of this a space that would be a great go-to destination for people living in South Naperville. This gets us up a little bit closer so you can see, here's some of the outdoor rooms that relate to the library. Here's the play spaces, which could be themed so that they would be not only nature-based, but they might be literature-based, so we kind of have a fun play on the library theme there. We talked about the notion of having some kind of restroom facility because, frankly, if we get the kind of activity we think we'll have here, probably not realistic to expect everybody's traipsing into the library. Plus, this is a great spot to store some equipment that the Park District would want. Here's a pavilion space into the sort of large, great lawn area. And I'm going to back up one, just so you get the perspective on this. This all is, in fact, I'm going to back up one more. So here's that performance area. And so for a really blowout performance, you could put thousands and thousands of people here and think about all the arterial streets and the parking that's in place to accommodate all of that presently. I'm pretty excited about that notion. No, that's not that interesting anyway. That's just a black and white drawing. So what might all of that look like? This could be the gateway into the space with some kind of a canopy over the top. We think this is kind of a cross between a garden and a play environment and a patio. So it's not a cold, hard civic space. It's not a fussy garden. It's something that is just, so think about sort of the fit and finish of the Riverwalk, but think about it in a different configuration. So here's a gateway into the space. Here's what it might look like as you're walking around in the space. Boy, that's really touchy. Gotta be careful about that. Here's some of the play apparatus. Again, in many cases, themed so that it might play off of some of the literature ideas that we've been throwing around. Here's what the edge of that detention pond might look like now instead of a weedy mess that you can't even see the darn thing, with some steps so that you get right down next to it. Maybe you could do some radio-controlled boats out here. Here's another little view, kind of looking southwest, looking over toward the space, toward the play apparatus here, with this very spacious area that faces to the east. Son of a gun. And here's another look at that area that's right on the retention pond, kind of the back end of the restroom. You can see all these little canopy structures suggest that there's something with a little bit of overhead to it to protect from the elements. And here is, again, this is the space by retention. The performance space might be over in this direction. Sorry about that. I'll get used to it eventually. Yes, it's a big investment. We think that all in, and that's the entire thing, including some street improvements, including really extensive walkway system where none exists presently that would extend to the, well, frankly, in all directions. We think all of that kind of improvement might be a couple of $100,000, which we're showing, oops, there it is, showing up in the corner here. The plaza space itself, we think might be $2.7 million. And you can see all the things listed, the amphitheater, the play spaces, all the furniture, all the planting, all the shelters, it's all inclusive. And then all of the remaining framework, which includes the road alignments and the interior trails. We think that's a pretty big item. We think that's maybe $1.5 million, something in that range. Clearly, there's a lot of partners. There's an opportunity for a lot of partners in this project or this initiative. We think, and clearly the staff thinks also, both at the library side and the Park District, we think that it's logical that the Park District participate in the fundamentals of this plaza space, but we certainly think that the city would be a partner in many of the street improvements and some of the trail connections. We think that the commercial developer to the west could eventually be a partner, or a strong partner in this, because it's going to do a lot to add value to his properties. We think there's opportunity for private donations, pretty significant opportunities, and we think there's opportunities beyond that maybe we haven't even conceived just at the moment. But all in, $3.5 to $4.5 million. Going back to the original question, can this be a center place for South Naperville? We think it's a really intriguing proposition, and we think with enough partners and enough momentum, we think that we can make that happen. This kind of shows how that might be chunked out. Now, Eric, how do I get to this video? Because I know that people want to see that more than they want to hear me talk. Oh.
Just got it right there for you.
You doing it for me? Let her rip. So this is a little walk through the space. Here we're zooming in from outer space. And now we've left the parking lot and we're heading into the southwest, coming right into the main space. Looking to the left. And kind of panning around a little bit. Tables and chairs so you can sit and relax, have a cup of coffee. Talked about the notion of having these smaller rooms, so there's smaller spaces, larger spaces. Love the music, not my game. Here's the performance stage. Not real elaborate, no back of house function. Just something where you could have some garage bands play or some kind of B group performers. Age appropriate play apparatus. And swooping down to take a look at the pond. Everybody's hanging out watching their RC boats. Those are pretty big boats. I think that's going to be about it. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I know that it's kind of rushed, but as you can tell, we are really genuinely excited about the potential, and I've been talking it up with all kinds of potential partners. Yes, sir.
One thing I want to point out too, that this connects with Frontier Park, and there's a trail that runs through Frontier Park that goes for miles in both directions. And there's a pedestrian bridge over Route 59. So connectivity from a pedestrian standpoint to this property is really unique.
Excuse me, Omar, can you help me get back to the, which one seemed to be stalled?
Which one?
There we go. Here's what President Riley's talking about. This is, of course, all Frontier Park out here. Here's the campus. All of this trail network heads out this direction. What's great is there's a regional bicycle trail right here. And all of that can connect into all of this space. Well, not to mention all the thousands of square feet of commercial buildings that are in Route 59.
Commissioner Ransom.
Everybody knows the story of Field of Dreams, that if you build it, they will come. But in this case, aren't we kind of a situation where the people are already there because we have 2,500 people a day going to the library, you have people at Equa, and you have people using our parks and that. So is it, to me, I know you were very involved with Riverwalk, but it seems like it's almost like a Riverwalk kind of phase one of this South Naperville Park.
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson, I think you're exactly right. One of the advantages, if you want to put it that way, that we have here is that we already have a population. We understand something about their behavior. I was blown away by this. It's not like there's a couple of dozen students coming across the street every day to use the library. There's hundreds of students coming across the street, very dangerous street, by the way, every day to use the library. And to give them a space, this time of the year, through October, in the springtime, who knows, maybe some nicer days in some of the off-season months, give them a place to sit outside and not always be cooped up inside would be hugely beneficial. Parents, I don't want to characterize it as necessarily moms, but stay-at-home parents, during the daytime, this would be a fantastic destination. There's opportunities to grab a bite to eat nearby. You can do some shopping nearby. It's not quite as connected as we would like to see it in sort of a perfect, urban planning sense. But with this kind of public investment, we think that it would be absolutely a catalyst for further investment, both by public and private investors alike.
And my other question is, that was a big one. The little one is just, I saw the radio controlled boat area.
Yeah.
See this fence and that, and I'm like, how do people that toss their boats over there? I mean, is there
I have
a way to get down
I
to the
have
water?
no idea. Ryan, if I said anything different. I'm sure we figured that part out. Yeah, we do have steps so we can get down to the water because we're.
Bob, do you have any questions?
Just crossing over the, from Negro over, there are a lot of students that seems like kind of a raceway between
Yes.
Frontier to 95th. Is there any way to make it easier for pedestrians to cross there?
I've talked on numerous occasions to city officials, and as recently as this morning again, kind of urging them to really think about putting some money in their capital improvement program, at the very least to address the sidewalk issue here, and preferably to address whether it's speed tables or some kind of alternative configuration. I mean, as a soccer dad, not recently, but a few years ago, yeah, I've been late getting the kids out there too, and you come racing down here because it's a straight shot and it's as wide as a runway, so you take out. It's not a healthy situation. I think we can do a lot better there.
That's a good point. Mike?
I think that was nice. Very, very well done.
Ray, you have anything to?
No, just obviously the support behind you from the library, and certainly we have our partners from Pulte. Development that's going in at 103rd and about 59.
It's kind of like just like right here.
Is certainly the partnership. And let me back up for a second. This really started with Karen Dunford, Karen Wave. She's the person that really deserves a lot of the credit, if not all the credit. After Mayor Chirico's speech, I believe it was about a year and a half ago, was it last April? Or the April before?
State of the City.
State of the City. We talked about thinking big. And the very next day, Karen called me up and she says, I want to think big because I was at the same State of the City that you were, and I want you to come out to 95th Street. So I went out, and she showed me the 2-acre parcel, which we're talking about here. And that's where this started. She was thinking big and saying, there's so much more that we can do with this. And Rick has said on a couple different occasions, because he's really good at what he does, is that given this 2 acres of land anywhere else in the district, we probably wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. We probably would do the standard, put your playground in, a couple of picnic tables. I mean, and those are really nice, I'm not downplaying what we do, but this is a public space. This is situated, you're not gonna find this anywhere in our inventory. So it's a perfect marriage amongst all the stakeholders here. Where Pulte comes in is through the land cash donation. I cannot speak for them, I don't speak for numbers. I'm confident that there's going to be a wonderful development that's going to go in there, and we believe that the cash portion of that land cash is spent wisely here. That's what it's there for. Certainly that neighborhood, and certainly all the neighborhoods around it would use this. But early on when we started talking about this, I fully believe this is going to become a destination spot. People are going to come from all of Naperville down here to see this, to enjoy this. And I told you my story a couple years ago when I was in Sheboygan. And you say, what are you doing in Sheboygan? So I was there for a conference. And I asked, what is there to do here at Sheboygan? And they said, you got to go to Bookworm Gardens. And I said, what is that? And so I pulled up to this place, and this is not going to be Bookworm Gardens, but I ask you to go ahead and look at this tonight or tomorrow. The concept is themed around books and themed around being outside in outdoor classrooms. And I was just blown away by the landscape of that. So talked to Karen that first day. I said, boy, it's funny you mentioned, because I just was at a place similar to this. So the pieces have all come together, and that's what we're here before you tonight to look for your support.
Okay. Rick,
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, we have our mid-year review and 2019 budget preview presentation.
You guys can go for give me a chance to go over. President Riley, I just want to thank them.
Like I was watching the whole. Okay. No, this is perfect because I can.
You guys have a nice flow.
How can I squint and still see?
Take care. We'll talk soon. You will.
Still with us, Rich?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, thank our attendees. Probably about 15, 20.
I saw you, I said, I wanted to make sure. Okay. Sorry about that.
Oh.
Okay, well, we'll get started. Thank you, and just so you're aware, this is kind of our mid-year, even though we're past mid-year, just because of the changing of the schedule. So we'll talk about that as we get into the presentation, and Ray will kick it off for us, and we will get started.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and stand if you don't mind.
And like the nice picture that we chose is, for those of you who haven't seen it, the farmer's market. Take this off. Oops. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to speak for a few minutes, and then we'll turn it back and forth amongst the directors and that. So the agenda tonight is so far what's going on in 2018 and looking ahead to next year. And we love that picture. Our night at the movies, as you know, has been a huge success along with the farmers market. So we wanted to use one of those pictures because it's cool. One of the best info, and you can correct me again, Sam, what are we calling this? This is the infographic, thank you. We have gotten a lot of mileage out of this because it says so many things in a condensed version, and it just speaks volumes to what the Park District offers. So again, providing a tremendous value to the community through recreation programs and services. I think that infographic says it all. Something that I've harped on, and I don't know, maybe harped is not the right word, that I've expressed a lot of excitement over is what we collectively, and that is the commissioners and the Naperville Park District staff have done in the community in keeping taxes down for people. And I know that's always a big thing. We just talked about a big project and how these things get funded. And you continue to spend my tax dollars wisely. I mean, many of us in this room are taxpayers, so we're in the same boat. So again, looking at 2012, an average home value was $328,000, and we paid about $306 per year to the Naperville Park District, or not we, but a citizen of Naperville did. So in 2018, using the 2012 base value of $328, we adjusted the EAV over that time, and the average taxes now paid to the district were $357 a year. So total, from 2012 to 2018, this translated in total $51 increase over the amount paid for 6 years. That's not 51 each year, that's in total over all those years. I think that's significant to mention and keep mentioning. And so you say to yourself, what did we get? Community, what is, if I'm a community member, so yeah, okay, great, Ray, it's 51 bucks, it's still $51. But what did you provide since 2012 to the, to the community from the Naperville Park District? Go ahead. So you got your 95th Street Center. And Atwater Park with the playground there, Commissioners Park, Synthetic Turf Field, Country Lakes Park, drone flying, DuPage River Trail segment. I'm going with these rather quickly because there's a lot of them. Fort Hill Activity Center, Frontier Sports Complex, restrooms, parking, and park renovations. Knocknolds Nature Center, Central Maintenance Facility. Meadowlands Park restrooms and park renovations. Nike Sports Complex fitness stations. Nike Sports Complex pickleball courts, 4 of them. Riverwalk Cafe. Sportsman's Park trap shooting, remediation, renovation, and nature trails. New registration software, Wi-Fi for patrons, the Park District app, which we created and patented. Fort Hill, the fitness app, again, we created and patented it. 311 Parks, new websites, Park Talk podcasts. 95th Street Center, the multiple programs that we offer now in South Naperville. Basketball, childcare, culinary, electric bike rentals, field hockey, fitness memberships, flag football, futsal, group exercises, gymnastics, indoor pickleball, indoor walk and jog track, kayak and paddleboards, kids night out, nature-based programming, nature preschool offerings expanded at Knocknolds Nature Center, open gyms, outdoor fitness classes, personal training, schools out field trips, scout badge programs, silver sneakers and prime, summer school camps, Wizards Rec and Roll at Fort Hill, Earth Week, Earth Day, the Farmers Market, Monarch Festival, A Night at the Movies, Rock the Hill, and RX for Nature. All those things, since 2012, we provided to this community for $51 in total. I think we should be proud of that. I think we should celebrate that. And I know you will hear this again November 12th of this year when we talk about the 2019 budget. Some of the 2018 goals here, implementing the strategic plan, you were all involved in that, that's done. The master plan, again, done in-house. Typically speaking, a master plan of this size for this district is never done in-house. Most of the time, that's anywhere from $50,000 to $75,000 for an outside consultant. We did that in-house. And the reaccreditation process, we went through that and affirmed that we are going to stick with our CAPRA accreditation process. The capital projects here, Frontier Sports Complex improvements are still ongoing. The playground renovations and Southwest Community Park Design Phase 1, that's all done. So I'll turn it over to Brett.
All right, so like we've done in the past, we're going to go through some highlights within each of the different department areas. And starting with recreation, what you see up there are the different areas within recreation that account for the recreation department budget. Beginning with programs, garden plots, all the way through Sportsman's Park. Through the month of July, 2018 revenue was actually ahead of budget by 2%, or just over $132,000. In 2017 revenue, when we compare to last year, by 7%, which is up over $350,000. And we'll get into the reasons behind that as we get into a few of the coming up slides. When we look at net, within our program areas and within our recreation department as a whole, we're ahead of budget by 97% at this point, $505,000, and ahead of 2017 by 26%, which is over $200,000. Beginning with programs, and as Ray mentioned before, there's a number of programs that are up there, and especially programs that we were able to offer this year: the Farmers Market, Night at the Movies, the Earth Fair, Earth Week, so on. that we would not have been able to do had we not been able to add some of the additional staff that we did this year, with adding the superintendent positions as well as a program manager position, just with the growth that we've seen in the programs. And we continue to see within program areas the overall growth. Our program revenue at this point is up 6% when we compare it to 2017, which is over $190,000. A portion of that is due to some increases to capture those active net and credit card fees, but that is approximately $79,000 of what you see of the $194,000. We've had additional participation within some of our programs that are higher priced programs throughout the district. Our overall net at this point through July is ahead of budget by 18% for the program areas, up $243,000. Program participation is essentially flat. It's down 1% right now, 563 participants through the first 3 seasons at the time that this was done. But we expect that we'll be right back to where we should be at this point, and if not, end the year ahead based on our fall registrations that we're seeing right now. Programs that are performing ahead of last year include our youth basketball preschool, our gymnastics, Gym Tigers program continues to do very well. Little All-Stars, and then the Magical Starlight Theater performances that were held earlier this year at the Little Mermaid performed over 2017. Programs where we've seen a dip include our Naperville Youth Soccer, our indoor soccer program, youth basketball camps, our 12-inch adult softball league, as well as Premier Soccer. And you see a lot of soccer up there. We've surveyed participants, we've surveyed households that registered one season and did not come back to try to get an understanding as to why they didn't necessarily register for the spring 2018 season. And what we heard back is that many of them chose to take a break from soccer. Their children chose to participate in another activity that was offered either through the Park District or through someone else. And that many of them intended to actually come back and play in the fall season. And what we've seen thus far is our fall numbers are actually right on pace with what we had in 2017. So while we saw a small dip in spring for soccer, we're actually seeing fall numbers actually rebound a bit. The indoor soccer program, we have a number of participants who are now participating in our youth basketball league and choosing to play basketball versus playing in the indoor soccer that we hold over players. Through the month of July, we've allocated 80% of our overall fee assistant program budget, so a little over $35,000. Just over $44,000 is budgeted for the year. On average, we see about 77% of the fee assistance program budget awarded through the month of July. So that program continues, the need that is out there for those funds continues to be very high within the community. Fort Hill Activity Center, when we look at this facility, over the past year we've had over 1,600 new fitness members that have joined the facility. And a big reason behind not only our program revenue up, but revenue for this facility is exceeding expectations at this point based upon the memberships that we have coming in as well as our open gyms and our other programs that are taking place here. We're ahead of budget at this point by 28%, almost $200,000, and ahead of 2017 revenue at this same point in time during the year by 108%, $273,000. Net is ahead of budget by 84%, and we're ahead of 2017 and by 107%. A lot of that is based upon the fitness memberships. We currently have over 3,000 what we call paid fitness members. Those are paying the full fees. We have about another 2,000 Silver Sneakers and Prime members who we get reimbursement from every time that they arrive at this facility. So in total, when you look at fitness memberships for this facility, we're at approximately 5,000 members that are utilizing the facility. And we do have a member appreciation event that's coming up next week on August 27th to celebrate the second year of this facility. We're almost at the second year of the grand opening that we held just a couple of years ago. And that shows the breakdown of the different memberships that we have between fitness, our group exercise, the walk, jog, track. A number of those, a large number of those are the free resident passes that have been provided, where we still provide times for individuals, residents to be able to come in and use the track for no charge during those non-peak times. So in all total, right around 6,700 memberships that have been issued for the facility. The graphs that you see up there show the usage within the facility for the months of January through July, comparing 2017 in the red to 2018 in the blue. You'll see fitness has had a significant increase. Our overall averages for fitness, in 2017, we averaged about 8,800 visits for fitness. In 2018, we're averaging over 20,000 visits per month within fitness. Our open gyms, you'll see, especially in the months of May, June, and July, significant increases in the amount of open gyms. One thing that we learned from that first year of operation is just the overall demand for open gyms and the popularity of the open gyms. So as we went into this summer, staff made adjustments with our schedules within the gymnasiums, moving some of the programs so that we could provide more open gym times, and that's where you see the significant increase there. Our overall group exercise classes, extremely popular program. As I mentioned at the last meeting, and something that we will be discussing a little bit later, is the expansion to be able to provide another group exercise studio in this building. We have a number of classes that are at capacity and have had to move into other spaces within the building, such as the room that we're in now, or the gymnasium, as well as classes where we're actually having to turn members away because the classes are filled by the time that they get done. This gives just a brief summary of some of the participation that we see within this building. A total of 6,096 participants registered during those first 3 seasons. That's up about 100 participants over what we saw at this time last year. Our gymnastics participation continues to be the largest program within the facility with over 3,000 registrants. And to note there again, we have for the first 3 seasons 393 participants who are waitlisted for gymnastics programs because we were filled. We have modified the schedule. We have added classes where we can, but really during those peak times that the community residents are looking for. Unfortunately, just the popularity of the class, we cannot fit more into the space during those peak times when those classes are most desirable. Naperville Youth Basketball, that represents right now our largest, second largest program with over 700 participants that were in the winter program. And we just completed, or actually just started registration for the fall and winter sessions for this year. And we've actually exceeded our fall 2017 youth basketball numbers already, just a couple of weeks into the registration process. And our winter is tracking ahead of where we were at last year as well. So that program continues to grow. What we're running into there is just the availability of practice space, practice gymnasium space. We're working with the school districts to try to secure more space, but we're limited in how much we can grow that program right now because of the practice space. We move into our seasonal facility, or more of our weather-dependent facilities. And when we look at Riverwalk Cafe, paddleboat and kayak rentals, Sportsman's Park, trap shooting, you're going to see that our revenues are actually down when we compare it to last year. When we look back at this past year, we've had quite a few days of rain. We've had weekends where we've had rain, as well as we've had a lot of hot temperatures, over 90-degree days and above average temperature days, which does not bode well for sitting out on the patio at the Riverwalk Cafe or renting a paddleboat or a kayak and going out into the quarry. For the cafe, our overall sales are down 39% at this point compared to 2017, but our expenses are down 48%, a considerable amount. And as we look at the end of July financials, we're right at a break even for the Riverwalk Cafe through the month of July. Our budgeted net income for the year is about $2,700, so that's our goal and that's what we're working towards. Paddleboat and kayak rentals, we're down 23% when we look at overall revenue. Expenses for that operation are also down 26%. A good portion of that is due to few less payments that go to Naperville Kayak for those kayak rentals because they've also seen fewer kayaks rented this year than in the past year. And then Sportsman's Park trap shooting, again, revenue down 25% there, and then we control expenses within that program because the expenses are really tied back to the ammunition that is needed and the targets, and those are based, the amount that you spend on the expenses is based on the number of rounds that are shot. Centennial Beach, the last several years, we've actually conducted this mid-year review at the July meeting, so that second meeting in July. So we have a lot of historical data where we've used the date point of July 21st. And so for this, we're looking at through July 21st, comparing it to the data that we have. Our attendance was below 2017 by about 2%, but our revenue was up about 4%. We had additional memberships sold this year, as well as some additional revenue that came in the month of May that we've not had in prior years. When we look at the 3-year average, we are right in line with what the 3-year average has been for Centennial Beach, with being up 162 visitors and about 83,000 in revenue. Overall revenue for memberships, daily admissions in Centennial Grill is at 74% of budget through July 21st, which was slightly ahead of 72% back in 2017. And just recently looking at our most recent August numbers, we're actually very close. We're within $16,000 of where we ended the season in 2016 for the daily admissions and for the memberships. So I expect that we will meet or exceed last year's financials for that. And then our total labor expenses are actually down through this course of the year, through this part of the year. It's fine. The next couple of graphs just give historical data, again through July 21st, comparing our attendance at the beach. You'll see 2013, 14, and 15 were really some bad weather years. 2012 was a year where we had, I believe that was a drought year. We had a number of days without rain, as well as very warm temperatures. So that was our highest attendance within the past 10, 15 years. Beach revenue, that's again slightly ahead of where we were at in 2016 and 17, and certainly ahead of where we were at in 2014 and 15. And then this chart, what we look at is for the beach season. So this is specific to the days that the beach is open. So really starting Memorial Day through that July 21st time frame. We look at the number of days of above average temperatures, days of reported rain, as well as above 90 degrees, because that all impacts that outdoor operation. You'll see that we've had more than the average as far as the overall days above average temperatures. We have had fewer days of rain, recorded rain in 2016 and 17 during the course of the beach season, and a much higher number of days above 90 degrees, which again, when you look back at Riverwalk Cafe, paddleboat and kayaks, when we have the 90-plus degree days, the hotter temperatures, bodes well for the beach and bringing people to that facility, not necessarily to sit on the patio or to run paddleboats and kayaks.
Moving on to golf and kind of mirroring what Brad had been talking about, the weather has also played a part of how our season has played out. Overall revenues are down about 6.5% through July 31st. We started out with a colder than normal March and April, and then moved into some significant rain events in May and June, and all of that has impacted our total rounds and our revenues. On the positive side, we've seen a nice increase in our Brooks Links membership program, about a 15% increase from last year. After we did some changes to our membership program, made it an annual membership, we were able to get out in front of our marketing with it, and we saw a real big increase from our off-season marketing plan. We are continuing to grow the game. We've seen some new high numbers with some of our junior leagues, especially our developmental league. We had 163 total kids this year, which is about a 26% increase from last year. And then our practice facility at Springbrook, the revenues continue to increase over there. We had some real nice numbers despite the poor weather. We're up about 12% versus last year, and just this past month, July, we had our highest number ever for a single month's revenue. We're looking at our revenues now through July 31st, and revenues and our expenses are down as the weather has obviously impacted everything. We see our total revenues through the 31st is about $2.2 million, and that is below our budget, our prior year, and our 3-year average. Currently, we stand to be about $154,000 behind budget, But on the flip side, we've been able to hold our expenses, and currently we are about $97,000 under budget on our total expenses. So why are our rounds down? Well, we started out with some real difficult weather in the early part of the season. If you look up in the corner there for April, you can see the temperatures are well below our normal temperatures. And the one number that I can point out is the frost and freeze days. In April, we had a total of 21 days with days below freezing. In fact, our first tournament of the season was on April 14th. We had 120 players signed up for that event, and it was snowed out. As we moved into May and June, the temperatures got back to normal, but we also started running into more precipitation. A lot more rain, total rain amounts in inches, but the number that really hurts us a lot was the total rain days. You can see in May, we almost had half the days of May with some sort of precipitation, and then 12 days in June. And how it kind of really hits home is when we start to lose or impact weekend play. Our weekends, Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays, generally are about 65% of our total revenues for a week. And as you can see in June, the difference between how a real nice weekend, like the first weekend in June, our total revenue was almost $72,000, followed by the second weekend in June, where we had a rain event Saturday, a total rain out for the day, and then a rain moving into Sunday morning. We ended up dropping our total revenue by about 2/3. And then you can see the change going back to the next weekend, another nice weekend. And then the following weekend, we had a heavy rain event on Friday, no carts on Saturday because of all the precipitation. Caused a serious drop off in total revenue. You can kind of look, I mean, you're talking those 2 weekends where we lost a number of rounds due to the weather. That's about $75,000. That's about half of what our deficit is right now.
All right, so the first project, completing the fiber connection in 219, is completed. That was also previously affected by weather, no joke. If it snowed, their connection dropped. We're in the process of replacing the Nike point-to-point access point. We're in the process of completing the Windows 10 migration. The unmanned range token at Naperville Park is also in progress. Digital signage expansion to Centennial Beach has been completed. The Naperville Park District mobile app version 2.0 was released and has been well received. And the Fort Hill Activity Center mobile app is being developed, and within the next couple of weeks we should have something to start beta testing. And then finally, the free public Wi-Fi project has been rolled out. 4 sites which lead into some of our other sites have been completed, and over the weekend we completed Springbrook Golf Course. That's it.
Okay, so the first half of 2018, we completed an employee opinion survey where we surveyed all of our full-time equivalent employees. We had phenomenal participation again this round. We only had 1 employee that didn't participate, so that was really great to get all that feedback. Our overall scores actually exceeded the national norms, but we did have 2 topics bubble to the top, including communication and compensation. So we've been addressing the communication thing from the get-go, kind of hard, fast, in your face kind of, and then the compensation, you'll see we're going to be looking to take care of some things as we budget into 2019. The Wellness Committee hosted its first annual event outside of the typical biometric screening, and it was very well received. We partnered that event with our Spring Employee Appreciation Lunch, and it was so well received it actually came up in the comments of the employee opinion survey, which was really cool. Through some collaboration between Omar and Bridget, they've evaluated the board docs system, and we're going to be looking to implement that, which will help with efficiency and also then paper reduction. We, as an organization, participated in Panorama's Hazard Hunter Initiative. This was a membership-wide initiative, largely looking to identify possible slip, trip, and fall hazards. And then, it's really market-driven, but we had to implement some new recruiting strategies for our part-time staff. Some things that were a little bit outside the box with vehicle magnets, yard signs. We used Facebook heavily. And as part of that, we also were researching other potential means that we anticipate we'll be implementing in 2019 if we see the same type of struggles in finding part-time staff.
All right, for marketing, we've had another busy year, accomplished a lot of good things so far. As you're well aware, we implemented the fee assistance program fundraisers, and we've had actually 4 fundraisers so far, 3 that are up there, and then the additional one, which was at Granite City, which was actually the most popular one. We've had a little bit of mixed participation. We've had a couple good successes and a couple not so good successes. So we've got some marketing tricks up our sleeve. We're going to try to do some more engagement through social media to try to get some more people to participate. And we're also going to be looking at 2019, looking at the ones that were most successful. Then we've got some other additional restaurants that we think might be better suited. We found that the 4 to 8 p.m. is a little bit more difficult than something that's available all day where you can do lunch or dinner. So we're going to evaluate those opportunities and make it even better for 2019. We developed and launched the Park Talk podcast for the State of the Park District in 2018. As you know, we moved away from the live event. The podcast has been going very well. We continue to generate topics. We're doing a series a month, and we've gotten a lot of good engagement through that. Several hundred people listening to each episode, and we hope to just continue to grow that exposure over time. One of our goals for 2018 was to sell 2 of the Fort Hill Gymnasium ad spaces. As you know, we've got Dick's Sporting Goods and Woody represented in the gymnasium. A lot of great exposure. We've heard good things from the sponsors, and we're very happy about that. As Ray mentioned earlier, we launched the infographics initiative with the Autumn 2018 program guide with the infographic you saw earlier. That will continue for winter 2019 and through the foreseeable future as an opportunity to educate residents on various things, whether it's the value the Park District provides, fee assistance programs, some of our green initiatives. And we've also, again, been able to grow the sponsorship program. A lot of good things there that Stacy's been able to do. And we've achieved sponsorship revenue growth of 6% through Q2 of this year compared to Q2 of last year. Trying to get in a good direction.
Moving back outside the parks, we'll have to talk about the weather again. The rains and the temperatures impacted operations and field use in the first half of the season. Part-time staffing continues to be a difficult issue. We've had a strong reliance on summer staffing using college help, but then the shoulder seasons continue to be a issue. The fuel budget will be approximately about $18,000 over budget, and that's mainly due to higher than anticipated fuel prices. There's continued work on Share the Trails initiative. Tree removal and natural area projects are continuing, and the Sustainable Parks initiative has kicked off this year.
So with regard to 2018 capital improvement projects, when we look at the A, B, IT capital allowances, at this time we are tracking to meet that $6,480,000 budget. So we're right where we want to be. When we look ahead at 2019, the main projects that we have slated for next year: Southwest Community Park Phase 1 site development. As discussed at the June 14th, 2018 special meeting and direction by the board, we are pursuing the funding opportunities and scenario approach for that, as well as you asked us to look at A&E service contracts. We actually are reviewing 2 contracts and proposals right now. We intend to bring those a contract to you for consideration at the September 13th meeting, but based on the timing, we're looking for mobilization for construction in summer of 2019 and be completed in summer of 2020. This is very similar to our Nike Sports Complex expansion property, the similar type schedule. So I just want to relay that. Looking at the Fort Hill Activity Center studio space expansion, as Brad mentioned, the demonstrated need. And we also discussed at the July 26th Park Board workshop, what would the all-in cost be for that project. So as you know, we worked with Williams Architects on the development of this facility, so it made sense to talk to them about the expansion in the upper level, and they identified the all-in cost to be $2.1 million. The intent as far as improvements and building this expansion would be the summer of next year, from June to probably through September. And in order to move forward with the AE service portion, we also intend to bring a contract to you for consideration at the September 13th meeting.
Next is the Frontier Sports Complex Public Plaza Development as part of the presentation this evening by Rich Hitchcock. This is a project that we were talking internally. It's not only in line with our mission, but we have 6 main core values, all core values linked to this project. And so with that being said, as Ray mentioned as well, this is something through the Land Cash Dedication Ordinance dollars that can fund this project for development. The phase 1, which is the plaza portion of the work as related earlier tonight, that we can develop that in 2019. Next is playground renovations. We have 3 renovations for playgrounds slated for next year at Heatherstone Park, Riverwalk Park, otherwise known as JC's Playground, and 3 Meadows Park. And next I'll hand it over to Katie for the last.
I'd really like you to do the comprehensive plan to address staffing or paying your attention. So as we look to 2019, we're going to look to benchmark some positions in relation to compensation, likely some full-time positions and also part-time. And with the new things that we've implemented, it's kind of been like, oh, let's try this and see if it works. Or, hey, we saw this working here, so let's give it a try. We want to not only implement new things, but we need to evaluate them, which will be part of that process as well. We're also going to look to recruit some non-traditional demographics for various positions within the district. And we talked about incentive compensation for some of our part-time staff in relation to getting them to return season after season and staying through the end of the season as well. So that plan will be forthcoming.
All right, great. So what's our next steps looking to 2019? We'll look to come to the committees in October, like we had in the past, with a high-level review of what is in the 19 budget. And then to meet our statutory requirements, we'll be doing the tax levy resolution on November 8th. November 12th is the scheduled workshop, a special meeting, and then we'd be approving the budget and appropriation ordinance on December 13th.
And then finally, the district continues to position itself to directly address its mission to promote healthy lives, healthy minds, and a healthy community. Again, at a great overall value.
Questions? Jim?
Yeah, Director Wilson, on the walking track number, how do you figure that?
So the walking track, they do scan in when they come into the facility to be able to use the walking track.
Downstairs?
Downstairs, yeah. And then actually a project that's taking place right now will be installed next week. We're actually putting a scanner over the door.
No, I knew that.
Yeah.
I just know, I guess I'm a bad guy because I go with my fitness class and I walk on the track after. So I don't come downstairs and scan it first.
Yeah, the track numbers, yeah, there's probably some misses on the track numbers just based on how people are utilizing that, but
Okay, I'd rather we're counting that letter.
Any other questions? Just a couple. Kevin, I know a year ago our merchandise sales were up pretty good. Have they maintained that level, or?
Yeah, actually, our merchandise sales are, right now at Springbrook, we're tracking to exceed our 2017 numbers. And Naperville is back to about their 3-year average. So overall, merchandise is up slightly.
And same question for you. The restaurant fundraisers,
Yes.
have you had 4 or 3?
We've had 4.
And what was the most successful one in dollars and the least successful
The
one?
most successful one was Granite City, which I said wasn't even on there, wasn't on the radar. That was the second July fundraiser that we had. That just kind of came up because they were looking to support local park districts,
Right.
where those restaurants are. That was, I believe, about $450.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was really, really big. It's followed by the first fundraiser that we did at California Pizza Kitchen, which was, I think, almost $200. Unfortunately, the Aurelio's one, the Chipotle one, not so much. I think Aurelio's, we got about $40-some, and Chipotle was a no-go because we needed a minimum purchase of $300 and we didn't make it, unfortunately. So, been some trial and error and some, good things and not so good things. So, like I said, we'll tweak that for next year.
Any other
Some of
questions?
those were very limited in time frame.
Right.
Like the
Exactly.
Chipotle one was gross.
That was 4 to 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was the Aurelio one?
Aurelio's was, no, that was an all-day one.
Yeah. It just, Next item on our discussion items is Fort Hill Activity Center studio space expansion.
Yes, I actually had a chance to touch on this part of the budget presentation. And again, all I wanted to reiterate is that a contract will be presented to the park board as it relates to any services at the September 13th meeting. So that's all I have.
Golf courses cart path renovation.
Yes, we solicited for bids for cart path paving at our golf courses. This is part of our 2018 golf capital budget, of which $94,500 is allotted for this project. Most of our paths at the golf courses were paved in 2000, and many areas are needing repair. So we're looking to replace about 1,500 square yards of cart paths and add about 1,350 square yards of new paths. We're currently reviewing the bids, and we expect to have a contract for your consideration at the September 13th meeting.
Thank you. Okay, Southwest Community Park OSLOD grant.
Yes, as you probably heard, the state of Illinois is releasing funds for the OSLOD grant this year. As staff, we discussed what would be the best candidate type project for this grant, and we identified it to be the Southwest Community Park project. The deadline for the grant application is October 1st. Part of that process, similar to the approach in past years, we would submit a resolution of authorization to the board for consideration and approval. And so based on the timeline, we plan on bringing that resolution to you for consideration at the September 13th meeting.
Naperville Park ball fields renovation.
Yes, this is another project, planned contract, planned to be presented to the board for consideration at the September 13th meeting. It involves renovations of ball fields 1, 2, and 4 located in South Knott. There is $80,000 allocated in the 2018 capital budget for these improvements, and we just want to let you know a contract will be coming to you next month.
Riverwalk Park warming house renovation.
So this project, also we have funds allocated within the 2018 capital budget, $275,000. This is for improvements to the warming house down along the Riverwalk. It's to improve the restrooms between the men's and the women's side, but as well as ADA code compliance and other improvements that are needed for the building. With the funds allocated for the work, we plan on starting this fall. As such, we intend to bring a contract to you for consideration also at the September 13th meeting. On a similar note related to this project, we're also pursuing what they call a CDBG grant, Community Development Block Grant. It's administered through the city of Naperville, but it's actually a federal grant through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. We have been working with city staff. We just received notice from city staff on Thursday, August 16th, informed us that the federal government and HUD actually declined our application because the building structure itself at the warming house portion is within the floodplain and contiguous or linked to the floodway, which is a reason that they cannot offer funding. However, we know from a park district staff and from our past experiences, there really haven't been any issues or impacts to the building structure. So we're not concerned about the improvements that we plan on making there. We just want to let the board know that the HUD and through the CDBG grant program, we will not be receiving any funds. However, that $275,000 that's allocated for the project is an all-in amount. So we have all the money we need to build the project.
Fishing pier renovations.
So in the 2018 capital budget, we have funds allocated for fishing pier renovations at Commissioners Park at the amount of $20,000. We also have funds allocated at the amount of $25,000 for fishing pier renovations at Hobson West Ponds this year. Both of these projects are for this year. The budget amounts were established by staff last fall in preparation of developing the 2018 capital budget. This spring, staff members from the planning department and the parks department had a discussion about the railings and the material that would be used would be wood. That was what the estimates were based off of. The thought came up on what about recycled plastic? It has a higher cost, but it also has a much longer life cycle. It's more durable, and the staff figured that this would probably be a better type of product material for these fishing piers. However, since it does have a higher cost, the suggestion by staff for consideration by the board is to take approximately $15,000 of the $20,000 Commissioners Park Fishing Pier renovation project allocated for this year and roll that into Hobson West Ponds Fishing Pier for a total of $40,000. That would allow staff to move forward and present a contract to the board for consideration and approval and complete the work this year for recycled plastic railings at Hobson West Ponds, but also to work on planned improvements that relate to the structural steel, which is toward the end of the pier, to make improvements to that too. The thought is then next year for the 2019 capital budget, the Commissioners Park improvement dollars will be reallocated, and then that railing would have recycled plastic railing as well. So we think it makes sense. We just, since we're moving dollars around within the project, we're not increasing the total dollar amount in 2018. But since we're proposing to shift those dollars, we want to get your thoughts on it and see if there's a consensus for us to move forward and bring a contract for you for the Hobson West Ponds project for this year.
So you're looking for a consensus from the board on that. Any questions, comments from any commissioners?
We talked about this at the Parks and Rec meeting. It seemed to make a lot of sense. There's damage that's done to the existing wooden structure time over time, and the plastic help prevent that.
And then related to that, also at the August 17th, 2018 Parks and Rec Committee meeting, we had a discussion regarding High Meadow Park. If I can just like to tie into that conversation that we had last Friday. And a proposal that was presented by the High Meadow Park HOA. We discussed it at the June 15th Parks and Rec Committee meeting, and that's when the Parks and Rec Committee asked staff to go back to the HOA and look at some concepts for adding, based on the HOA members' request, they were wondering if we could add some trees, a concrete pad, and some benches. We met on site with the Parks Department staff, Recreation staff, and planning staff. And then we had a follow-up meeting based on direction from the Parks and Rec Committee on June 15th. We met with the HOA members and we came up with a concept for consideration by the Parks and Rec Committee, which was presented on Friday, August 17th, last Friday. And so this is a concept that was preferred by the stakeholders. We want to present it to this group. This is essentially the HOA board has identified. First, they asked, well, what would the estimate for this project be? And it's $6,000. They're willing to cost share at 50%, so they're willing to pay $3,000. And they wanted to present this to us as staff, to present to the Parks and Rec Committee, and then ultimately the board for consideration if there would be an interest to proceed. From a staff perspective, we recommend this project. It involves the installation of 5 shade trees and then a small concrete pad and 2 benches. The HOA board also asked if they could put in a plaque or just notifying folks that this HOA group donated funds for this project. So we think it's a good improvement. We don't have plans would this go for 2018 or 2019 as far as funding right now because our goal is to hit budget. So if need be, this would be a project we do first thing in 2019 and budget accordingly. But we want to gather your thoughts as an entire board whether or not to proceed with this.
Any commissioner feel that we should not proceed with that?
Yeah, we talked about this at Parks and Rec meeting, and we thought it was a good project.
So just to be clear, so on both issues, we're looking for consensus from the board on the pier and on this issue. There appears to be consensus from the board to move forward.
I just had a question on these trees and that. Is this the kind of thing that we would be doing if we were, we had funds to develop this park on our own?
Yeah, this has been a park that's been maintained for many years. And we never had any requests for trees.
Sure.
And initially the HOA asked, well, can we add some other types of improvements? And when we had conversations with them on site, we identified there's a lot of drop-in and practice play and use of the green open space. And they suggested to us, and this was the first time we heard of it, when residents are walking from the neighborhood area to the school, and it's not shown on an aerial image, but to the east, there's a school there. Well, during the day, there's a lot of parents with children with strollers. It's just nice to have a little shade along the sidewalk, especially in the afternoon, but also a nice place to sit and just community meeting space. And so when we listened to the thoughts and ideas, we figured this really wouldn't impact our existing operations programming, how we maintain the site, but it would be a nice improvement, so that's why we're offering that.
It's a lovely concept that the community's involved and they're putting on skin in the game and we're doing something that is good for the community, so I think it's great.
Just another question. How does the I guess the logistics of, okay, the HOA is said they're gonna cost share. At what point do we request funds from them?
Yeah.
Before, after?
So we
Middle?
worked through similar type of scenarios in the past, especially with the Lions Club for the drinking fountain at Naperville Park. And so we would develop like a letter of agreement, general understanding, and then we would probably ask for the funds at the time of completion. So once the trees and everything are in, we would set a date that by this time you would provide us with the funds for completion of the 50%. So that's how we would, maybe like within 30 days of final completion.
Thanks. Next item on the agenda is purchase of one 2019 Ford F-350 truck for parks. And when I first read this, I thought it said purchase the truck for parts. And I said that's kind of expensive way to buy
It's
parts.
a very expensive
As long as it's
parts.
parts.
Yes, our fleet division is bringing for your considerations in September a contract to purchase a 2019 Ford F-350 regular cab truck for our South Parks division. This vehicle is going to be replacing a 2008 Ford that is in need of major repair and has over 47,000 miles. The total price for this is about $44,998, and that'll be coming out of our 2018 capital budget for purchases of vehicles and equipment.
Then purchase of one 2019 Toro Groundsmaster mower.
Yes, Fleet is also bringing to the September meeting for your consideration the purchase of a 2019 Toro Groundsmaster. This will also be for the South Parks division. This mower will be replacing a 2007 Toro Groundsmaster. The new mower will actually have greater width and will help increase their overall productivity in the parks. And a win-win will be that the existing mower will be repurposed to the golf division.
Next, program guide printing renewal.
All right, so at the September meeting, I'll be asking the board to approve the final year of a 3-year contract for printing the program guide for our current vendor, and we'll go back up to bid next year. This is going to be the last year, and we'll move on. It's just
Okay, 12th item is revisions to personnel policy 07-02, tobacco use.
Yep, so also coming for your approval on September 13th is an update to policy 0702 tobacco use to do 2 things. One, insert a reference regarding e-cigarettes and vaping, and then most importantly, to bring the policy in line with the changes that occurred within general use order 641 regarding smoking pipes.
Okay, next is future meetings. We have a regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners September 13th, 2018, 7 o'clock at the Naperville Municipal Center Council Chambers. The next regularly scheduled meeting would be September 27th, 2018. The board has decided to cancel that meeting because of conflicts with the NRPA meeting in Indianapolis. It was felt that we can get the business done in other scheduled meetings. So the next scheduled meeting after that will be the regular meeting of the Board of Park Commissioners, October 11th, 2018, 7 p.m., Naperville Municipal Center Council Chambers. Next item that we have on the agenda is executive session. The only item there is to discuss the semi-annual review of executive session minutes. So unless there's need to discuss that, we can just move on and call for that motion.
Okay, so I'll move to take the written and approved September 8th, September 22nd, November 15th, and December 13th, 2016, and January 12th, January 26th, February 9th, and February 13th, 2017 executive session minutes be released or retained as released. To be released.
Second. We have a lengthy motion in a second. And obviously, all these minutes have been provided.
I would just ask the maker of this motion to add to her motion that good cause exists to keep the rest of the minutes confidential.
So moved.
And so second.
Thank you. Bridget, call the roll, please.
Vice President Janner?
Yes.
Commissioner Todd?
Yes.
Commissioner Edson?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlson?
Yes.
Commissioner King?
Yes.
President Rose?
Yes.
President Ryder.
Egan?
Oh, he's absent. Commissioner Erickson.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is adjournment.
Move to adjourn August 23rd, regular meeting.
Do we have a second for that?
Yes.
Motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all.